You also got to suspect that Israeli priorities may have informed our tragic decision to bomb, and it was revealed today it was, in fact, tragically, the U.S. military, by mistake, bombing a girls' school attached to an Iranian naval base where the daughters of naval officers went to school, and over 100 of them were killed. Well, that's just terrible, okay? America doesn't do stuff like that, and actually doesn't. And the times that we have done it, we've apologized and prosecuted the people who did it. When civilians are killed in large numbers and it becomes public, the United States military, going back hundreds of years, has felt a moral obligation, being a Western, not an Eastern country, to apologize for the death of innocents and punish the people responsible. It's happened a lot. Because we don't do things like that. Israel does do things like that. Israel sets off pagers in the pockets of people they can't identify. They're just out there. They're going to go off and they'll kill some terrorists and maybe some others, which they did. And that's a price they're willing to pay. That's not a price that we're willing to pay because we're not Israel. So you have to wonder, like, how did this happen? So the U.S. government is saying this was a tragedy. It was a mistake. Totally believable. It was a case of bad targeting. Where'd the targeting come from? That's the question. Where do we get those targeting numbers? Oh, we don't know, of course, but it's worth asking. Where do we get those numbers? And by the way, where do we get the intel upon which we made our assumptions that we should go into Iran and that there was a huge and anxious group of liberal-minded Iranians who wanted to throw off the shackles of theocracy, and that just a few choice bombs would unleash the desire for freedom within, and they would do the work for us and affect regime change themselves, and that from among them would arise a pro-Western leader. Why did we think that was true? It turned out not to be true, unfortunately. Well, it may not surprise you to learn that almost all of our signals information, our SIGINT, out of Iran is translated by our ally and partner in this war, Israel. Now, that's not to suggest that the Israelis, who have a lot of Farsi speakers among them, because there are a lot of Iranians who moved to Israel, Persian Jews who moved to Israel, it's not to suggest that the Israeli government would in any way be tainting or withholding or mistranslating or skewing this electronic intelligence to get us into a war that doesn't serve our interests. I mean, really, who would do that? But it raises the question of incentives. So just to be clear, Israel has an incentive for the United States to stay in this conflict and make sure that Iran doesn't win, because if Iran wins, that's an actual existential threat to Israel, for real. Ben Shapiro's already talking about existential threat to Israel. Okay. Its nuclear program was not an existential threat to Israel. An Iran that emerges intact after this conflict is an existential threat to Israel. That is true. That's not an overstatement. So they have every incentive to keep us in and to tell us lies about the nature of the threat in Iran, about what they think is going to happen next, about chatter they pick up on the ground in Iran. They have every incentive to skew the SIGINT in their favor. Now, it's not even an attack on Israel, by the way. The second you join in an enterprise like this with a foreign country, you are certain to get problems like this. And by the way, to be fair, trying to be fair, the Israelis apparently are a little bit frustrated too, because they look over, they've got a whole set of priorities that are very important to them, and we don't share them all. Ground troops would be a perfect example. They would like ground troops. Flat out, they would like ground troops. Why wouldn't they? Our ground troops, not theirs. They're busy invading southern Lebanon and cleansing Lebanon, including Christian villages in Lebanon, killing a priest. Now, why would Israel be invading Lebanon right now? And they've lost people doing it, by the way. It's been a slog for them. Well, strictly speaking, it's because Iran activated Hezbollah, which is a proxy for Iran, in southern Lebanon. They started attacking northern Israel. Okay. Who could have seen that coming? Just because they killed the leader of Hezbollah, Nasrallah, a year ago doesn't mean it doesn't exist anymore. Of course it does. But the effect of this is not attacking anybody, just noting it, is the United States is all in trying to defeat Iran, push back these attacks on all of our allies in the Gulf and on Israel. And Israel is taking this opportunity to grab more land in southern Lebanon. So we're fighting Iran while they're taking over contiguous land from one of their neighbors and cleansing it of Arabs. How is that in our interest? Why would we want to take credit for that? Why would we be in favor of that? I mean, that's a problem for Israel to deal with. But that's what they're doing. And of course, that's always what they were going to do, because Israel is acting in what it claims is its own interest, or what Benjamin Netanyahu believes is in his own interest, because we don't have the same interests. And that was very obvious in the first hours after this, when the prime minister of Israel, in his, I think, first remarks on the new war with Iran, said two things. One, I've been waiting for this for 40 years. This is part of a pre-existing plan, totally disconnected from Iran's modern nuclear program, which was not in the same condition 40 years ago. If you've been thinking about something for 40 years, you're probably not describing an imminent threat. Hard to be imminent for 40 years. This is an effort to expand the territory and the influence of Israel in the Middle East. Of course, again, not an attack on Israel, it's just a fact. That's the first thing he said, revealing his motive, just saying it out loud. One wonderful thing about Israelis is, unlike Americans, they're less circumspect. Just kind of say it. And the second thing he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's about right. He said, in today's Torah portion, we read about the Amalekites, about Amalek. And that would be a direct reference to 1 Samuel 15, in which God commands the Israelites to kill the Amalekites, all of them, every single one of them, to commit genocide against Amalek. The men, the women, the children, the infants, is almost verbatim quote, and the animals. The camels and the sheep. All of them. Kill them all. Wipe them off the face of the earth. In fact, God punishes the Israelites for not following his instructions and sparing some. So whatever you think of that, whether it's your theology or not, your religion or not, it almost doesn't matter. In a geopolitical context, no one has talked that way in 80 years. No national leader has stood on camera and said, our goal is genocide. And not like semi-modern Nerf genocide, where we kill a lot of people, make the rest of them leave, but actual genocide, where you kill everybody and their children, quote, and their infants and their animals. You erase any evidence they ever existed, period. It's 1 Samuel 15, in case you're interested in reading it. And it is interesting, and it's of course part of Judaism, it's part of Christianity, it's the Old Testament. So it's not an attack on the verse, but to invoke that verse in the middle of a hot war and respond to it by saying, this is what we're doing today. Amalek is Iran, is to call for genocide against your opponent. Now, without even judging that, it's worth noting that is not in the interest of the United States. Despite what the president said today about eliminating the country with nuclear weapons, that is not in the interest of the United States. It's not the desire of the American people to commit genocide against the Iranians, without even considering what the downstream effects of that might be, profound, without even considering that. Ask yourself, is that why we're in this war? Because we think the Iranians are Amalek? They seem kind of awful and scary, and they're like bad Islamic people or whatever. But are we really going to try to eliminate every one of them? The men, the women, the children, the infants, the camels and the sheep? Nah, that's not in our purview, because that's not in our interest, because first of all, we don't do things like that and never should. And second, how does that make us stronger and richer and more secure? I don't think it does. Israel has a different view. And so that's the point. This can never work in America's national interest as long as it is tethered to another country's national interest. And if that doesn't work, if it doesn't work in the middle of a war, it probably doesn't work in peacetime either. Ranchers built America, feeding our country for over 250 years through droughts and wars and recessions and pandemics, and anything else that happened didn't matter to them because they had to come through, and they did. That legacy is the one that our partners at Good Ranchers continue and represent. Good Ranchers is a meat company that's 100% committed to this country, not just in words, but in practice. Every cut they offer is raised on United States farms and ranches. Their entire packaging and fulfillment operations are right here in the US. Same with customer support. Imagine Americans on the other end of the line. Plus, Good Ranchers donates a portion of all profits go to veteran organizations. We use Good Ranchers ourselves. We love it. The subscriber experience is super easy. Order requires just a few clicks. Simple, flexible, and built around your schedule. So you can support a company that sells an amazing product that honors Americans past, present, and future. Visit goodranchers.com today, and when you start your plan, you'll get to pick a free meat. They'll be included in every order for life, or you get $25 off your first order by using the code Tucker. Tucker is the code for $25 off. Goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.